Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. The signature race of the Remington Park meet is on Sunday. It is the Grade 3 Oklahoma Derby for 3-year-olds going 1 1/8. It's a really nice card loaded with stakes races, and you can bet it with a new DRF Bets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com and receive a 300% deposit match. Here's the field for the Oklahoma Derby. Pretty competitive bunch going 1 1/8 for $400,000. Let's begin with the number 2 Wooderson for trainer Todd Pletcher, bringing a lot of pedigree appeal in here as the little half-brother to the great Rachel Alexandra. Good second last time out at this 1 1/8 distance, finishing ahead of next out 95 Beyer winner Plainsman. If this race turns into a stamina contest, maybe Wooderson with his good tactical speed is the right one.
Yeah, he certainly would feel like he has no problem with the distance based on his last 2 races. The maiden win, when they stretched him out to 9 furlongs at Saratoga, was actually a good effort. It was a race where he kept right up. He got a really good trip keeping up with the pace there, but that race came back pretty fast, Dan. 150-3 final time. The Coaching Club American Oaks on the same card that Monomoy-Gura won, 150-2. He went just about as fast as them, and then he came back last time. I thought he ran well in there. He's chasing Weather Whiz, an older horse who's in form around the track the entire time, never stopped trying. A nice performance from him. I'm not sure how short a price I would take on him in this race, but I think he's a major contender in here.
Trainer Steve Asmussen won this race last year with Untrapped, and he comes loaded for bear in the 2018 edition with 4 entrants, including the number 1 Lionite. 4th last time out in the Super Derby. You watched the race, and he just had trouble from the start, basically from a ground loss perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't a great trip for a horse who had post 9. Obviously, at the end of the day, it wasn't going to matter with the race that his stablemate won to win the race, Limation, but this horse always stuck on the outside, never saved any ground. He raced on until late in the stretch, and then he just got tired and got outfinished for 3rd. I thought, all things considered, he didn't run terrible in there. The question is, how good is he really? I do like that he moves to an inside post.
And if you want to make excuses for that race, you can. And if you want to make excuses for the West Virginia Derby trying to make up ground on that speed-favoring track, you can. And if you want to try to make excuses for the Iowa Derby, where he was kind of in behind horses in upper stretch, you can. I'm a little concerned about the 1 1/8 because this is a nice inside post position, and he should be working out a mid-pack trip. Now, Limation is the now horse for the Asmussen barn. This horse was 26-1 in the Super Derby, and he got a great trip. He was sitting 2nd off of 72-1 shot, took over the race on the far turn, and then he just kept right on going. He didn't look like a 26-1 shot. I know it was a wet track, but that race came back super fast.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and it was out of nowhere almost that he took a huge step forward. The trip was great. Obviously, when you look at his past running lines, a wet track doesn't bother this horse, so he had some things go his way in there. But there's no denying he took a huge step forward in there. I don't know if he can back it up, Dan. I'm not really interested in finding out if he can back it up. If he's going to be 3-1 like the morning line says, I'll just try and beat him. But if he backs the race up, he's probably going to win.
We know he likes to be forward. Timeform US believes that he can actually make the lead in this spot, albeit with that red bar indicating it's a fast pace. And that might be a little bit of a different situation in the Super Derby, where the pace was rated and moderate to at best. Limation also will have to stretch out to 1 1/8 for the first time, and with that fast pace, it could work against him. But boy, very visually impressive in fast time last time out. Asmussen has the 8 Combatant, the horse that you see lingering near the rear of the pace projector, and that's his running style, and he would benefit from a fast pace up front. He's started 11 times. He's kept some good company. They've tried him on turf, and he has a nice pedigree for it, but it just didn't work out. It just is that when a horse with this kind of running style needs help, and it's not only from a pace standpoint, he needs to get the right trouble-free trip.
Yeah, right, and maybe he gets the right pace set up and he comes running at the end and he closes this race down. We'll see. Turf to dirt, maybe that works for him as well, even though I liked him switching to turf for those last 2 races. It didn't work out. He's back to dirt here. He's clearly a good dirt horse, so we'll see what happens. I've never liked him going longer distances, but you know what? You mentioned Untrapped before. I didn't like Untrapped going 1 1/8 last year either, and he won this race.
Asmussen's longest shot of the 4 is going to be the number 10, Retirement Fun, who began his career like maybe there was something there. 2 gate-to-wire wins at the fairgrounds, and they threw him to the wolves. In the Southwest, the Louisiana Derby, well beaten, and I like that they gave him a break after that. He came back off a long layoff. He got a little bit tired in his most recent start. Maybe he moves forward in his 2nd off the bench, but this is a tough spot.
Yeah, I think you would have liked to see him run a little bit better off that layoff last time. On the other hand, didn't seem to bother Asmussen too much. He runs him right back in the Oklahoma Derby. So maybe this is the race that they were pointing for. I like that he started out his career like he could be okay, Dan. I'm not going to hold the Southwest or the Louisiana Derby against him too much. He didn't run well in those races. I'm not going to hold it against him, though. Very lightly raced. This horse could jump up here and run a better race at a big price.
The 5 Lone Sailor is just like Combatant. They've run a handful of times, more than a handful of times. They're still eligible for non-winners of 2 Life, but they've done some good things. I mean, Lone Sailor is multiple Grade 1 placed, no match from Limation last time out at Louisiana Downs, but the 1 1/8 coupled with a good pace scenario work in his favor. My issue is the horse always seems to get bet, and he's just not reliable from a win standpoint.
Yeah, all those things are true. I mean, I'm not, and just in this field in general, based on where he's been running in the races he's been running, he's been competitive with some better horses. I'm not way against him in this race. I just don't really want to bet him at a short price. I think he's pretty good overall. These 3-year-olds, especially the ones we've been seeing, along the Derby Trail, they're just not that good a crop overall. I would just try to beat these horses.
I think you and I will agree that Diamond King, while a stakes winner at 1 1/8 and is a very courageous and gutsy horse, he won that Tessio on guts alone. I don't really think 1 1/8 is his best distance. Now, in his most recent race, the Smarty Jones, he was just beaten by a superior animal, an Axelrod, who came back to run a fantastic second in the Pennsylvania Derby with a 104 Buyer's speed figure. I think this 1 1/8 is tough for him, but it'll be close to the pace, and from a class standpoint, he fits.
Nah, I agree. I like him as a horse. I think he's a pretty talented 3-year-old. I just don't really like him going these longer distances. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll be right, and he'll show up here and run the best race of his life. I'm going to wait for them to cut this horse back.
He's trained by John Service, as is the horse on the far outside, the number 11 First Mondays, and I think this horse has a lot of promise. He's sold well as a yearling. He's by Curlin and is well bred. He got a real late start to his career. Didn't start till June of his 3-year-old campaign. Reeled off 2 good wins, 3rd behind Axelrod, and only start number 3 in that aforementioned Smarty Jones Stakes. And I thought he ran well considering the lack of pace there. This is a tough outside post position, but I understand why John Service is going to take a shot. And if it doesn't work out here, I'd be curious to see how this horse does next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wish he was drawn better in this race. He got a bad post. He won each of his first 2 starts, and the figures were fine. I wasn't blown away with those performances. I thought he was okay winning. He ran better last time. That was a pretty good performance for this horse. I'm interested to see what he does here. I just hate his post.
Although Seafoam won a sprint stakes race for New York breds last year at 2, you and I were waiting for Christophe Clement to stretch him out. Just look at the pedigree by Medaglia d'Oro out of the route-loving Strike It Rich, and his 2 dirt races around 2 turns have been good on the lead performances against New York breds. Now, I didn't like the Albany as a race overall. This is a much tougher spot, and the pace might be a lot tougher as well.
Yeah, I agree with both those things. I mean, he's run fine. He was actually a good 2-year-old, and he's been better as a 3-year-old, and he has improved since they stretched him out. But he's going to have to run better than he's run in his last 2 starts against this field.
Believe in Royalty, the number 3, really benefited from an electric place in the Ellis Park Derby last time out. Now, I know he beat 4 next out winners, but everything just seemed to play right for Believe in Royalty, a horse that finished behind Lionite in the Iowa Derby previously.
Right, and even with everything going right for him last time, he still only ran an 81, and it's not going to be good enough in here.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Oklahoma Derby. You have a big price contender in the number 6 Eisenstadt, a horse that just blew away the competition last time out at Ellis Park, going that 1.5 turn configuration. I like his tactical speed. I like the fact that he has upside, and I like his pedigree for this distance.
Yeah, I like all those things too. I mean, this is a tough spot for him. So we'll see what happens. I don't know that he's going to be good enough, especially as he takes on another furlong. But he's really improved since they stretched him out. His win 2 starts back, he really gutted that one out. The horse that ran second to him, who was a big favorite in there, made his next start at Del Mar, wins by 6 with an 87 Buyer's speed. The horse that ran 3rd in that race wins his next start with an 82. And then this horse comes right back. He just buries allowance horses. The horse that ran second to him wins his next start by 6 with an 85. Everybody's improving out of these races. I'm hoping that he improves. I don't like the 3-year-olds that we've seen in all the stakes races. I want new faces. He's a new face. He's a big price. I'll try.
20-1 on the morning line for Mike's top pick in the Grade 3 Oklahoma Derby. He's going 6-2-1-4. She's a Julie from the same Asmussen barn kind of opened my eyes on Limation. Wasn't sure to believe the Iowa Oaks. She backed it up with a big performance when second in the Alabama. Limation came out of nowhere to run the Super Derby. 3-1, yeah, it's light for a horse that was 26-1 when that career-defining race, but I think he can back it up with a close-to-the-pace win. I'm going to go 4-2-7-11 in the Grade 3 Oklahoma Derby, one of several stakes races on a big card of racing on Sunday. You can bet it with a DRF Bets account and the 300% deposit match that goes with it. Just sign up at bets.drf.com. Approximate post time for the Derby, the Oklahoma Derby, 8:06 Central. Best of luck.